Hello everyone, welcome back to the XFL's Fan Zone. My New York Giants, because since the XFL has once again let us down and pretty much dropped the ball. Oh, hold on for a minute. I gotta dust this off. Well, I guess I'll be collecting more dust in the future since, the XFL's big news, great big news coming was wait till 2023 when we promised you football in 2022. Now I'm thinking about this last night, and I just saw an article come up. I'm going to read them a few, but I'm just giving you my opinion. This is going to be an editorial opinion. Let me know what you think. But as the title says, the XFL got played. The XFL came to the poker table and they pretty much faced a couple card counters and got played and left the table with empty pockets and a broken promise to its fans. Now, I said yesterday, the XFL pretty much fumbled the ball at their own 1 yard line and recovered it in the end zone for a safety for the other team. 2 points. What does 2 points really represent, really? The 2 free seasons the CFL, they gave the CFL to play football while they're still licking their wounds and chops and figuring out what they're going to do. Now, I would love to know, since they said they couldn't even agree on the business terms. I mean, the CFL said the XFL brought a lot of good things to the table. Okay, great. What were they? What did you guys agree on? What were the deal breakers? Because from what I'm seeing right now, I don't think you guys could not agree on anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. My other question is, who came to who first? Did the XFL go to the CFL, or did the CFL go to the XFL? Either way, the CFL played the XFL pretty good. They were card counters. And listen, you don't think the CFL didn't see the success of XFL 2.0? You think they didn't notice the big crowds, the competitive games, the TV ratings, the type of TV contract they were having, the momentum we were building? You don't think that didn't make the CFL a little nervous? I mean, after all, if I was trying to make it the NFL, where would I want to play? Do I want to play in Canada for 18 games, making the Canadian dollar, get hit with Canadian taxes, and having to deal with the Canadian ratio? Or do I play in the United States for 10 games, make American money, don't get hit with many taxes, and is not worried about a Canadian ratio? Let's face facts here. So, who came to who first? Either way, the CFL got the best of the XFL. And I'm sorry, Rock, for all your swagger. I don't care if you're the face of the league. You, Danny Garcia, Redbird Capital, you got pickpocketed. Because just a few days before training camp opened, I guess the CFL broke off the talks from what I'm hearing, or maybe it was mutual. But right after that, the CFL said, we're kicking off August 5th, I believe it is. Now, albeit it's not the full 18-week season the Canadians are used to, and for which I'm saying, who cares? I mean, listen, I'm an American. If you Canadians feel differently, you diehards, I get it. It's your league, your country, whatever. But I said last video, 18 weeks for a 19 league is just too many games. In fact, I would go on to say that maybe 14 weeks is a little too much for a 19 league, but it's better than 18. I would make the case maybe 12 is good enough, but hey, 14 is good, and good for you Canadian football fans. You're going to have football in the Grey Cup. In fact, you're going to have a 14-week season in 2021, and I'm assuming you're going to have a full 18-week season when 2022 gets underway. So the CFL is going to have 2 seasons without any competition from the XFL to regroup and remake themselves before the XFL even kicks off. You people see what I'm getting at here? I think the CFL strung along the XFL on purpose to make sure they didn't kick off in 2022. And once the XFL took the safety and foamed the ball at the 1 yard line with these ridiculous talks, which got us nowhere, got us nothing, and all you did was piss off the XFL fan base and Guardian fans like me. You took the safety. Not only did you give 2 points, you gave away 2 seasons to the CFL for free. And I think we can honestly say I don't think the CFL is afraid of the Spring League. Because I certainly wouldn't be. Listen, I have no problem with the Spring League. For what they had to deal with a budget, they did a real good job. But let's face it. 8 teams playing in 2 cities with no city affiliation and no crowd in the stands. I saw a couple games. One was the Mega Bowl. The 2 games I saw were pretty good. I gotta say they were, but professional football needs an atmosphere. I mean, after all, college football has atmosphere, and they're considered collegiate athletes. And don't think the CFL did not string her along the XFL and hoping that the USFL, when they made the announcement, was going to kick off in 2020, and you can bet that the CFL is hoping that the USFL puts a thorn in the XFL's side. That they start competing for players and they cancel each other out and both leagues get wiped out. Now people are talking about, XFL and USFL expansion. Yeah, that sounds good. But will it happen? I mean, you have a single owner league versus a league in the USFL which is going to have multiple owners. How would that work? As I said, I think it would be a lot easier for the XFL right now just to buy the AAF, since that was a single owner league. And just take those teams and you would have instant rivalries everywhere. San Diego Fleet would be an instant rival. The LA Wildcats, San Antonio Commanders would be an instant rival for the Dallas Renegades and the Houston Roughnecks. Atlanta would become an instant rival. Atlanta and Orlando would become an instant rival for the Tampa Bay Vipers. So would Memphis. You would have a lot of Southeast teams down there in warm weather, which you want a spring league. And then you have a rival for Seattle with Salt Lake. That's just my thing. Anyway, let's see what happens here. But, yeah, the XFL got played. They went to the poker table with a bunch of card counters, and they got strung along and left empty-handed. In fact, they lost. Rock, you said kickoff in 2022, and now it's kickoff in 2023. You admitted you couldn't even get along with the business terms. You didn't even discuss football rules. Not for nothing, I think you, Denny Garcia, and any representative from Redbird Capital should come out with a press conference and explain to us what happened, because this whole thing about you being behind in the background and just, 2023, it tells me how much of a bunch of egotistic punks you guys really are. I'm sorry you guys got played. I realize I'm just a football fan here, and you get all the money, you get all the capital, but in the end, you still need people like me and my fellow XL fans out there to support your league. And right now, you guys aren't doing a good job. We told you over and over we wanted nothing to do with the CFL. We told you over and over, just take what Vince McMahon and Allah gave you and run with it. We told you over and over we want to kick off in 2022. You failed all 3 times. And if you want to know, the Edmonton Elks, formerly known as the Edmonton Eskimos of the CFL, came out with a tweet saying, We are glad we broke off talks with the XFL. We want our Canadian football the way it is. I'm paraphrasing now. We want our Canadian Football League to remain the way it is, tradition, Canadian style. Listen, that's all you need to know how these talks broke down. And I'm sure there were plenty of teams that wanted, in the CFL, that wanted nothing to do with this. And it's no surprise it came from a team like Edmonton, because anyone who's ever watched the CFL, I've been watching it for the last 3 seasons before the scandemic happened. But the Canadian Football League is very popular from Winnipeg out west. It really is. I mean, the people are more into it. The atmosphere is always better. The crowd's always better. The teams out east seem to have the attitude of, okay, we'll go. It's not hockey season. And it seems like the only time they ever go to games if when the playoffs happen, or if their team's having a historic year, or if they do a good job of setting up the Grey Cup when it does come to the east coast of Canada. But it seems like the people on the East Coast of Canada don't really care much about the CFL like the ones on the West Coast do. The West Coast has much better crowds and much better atmosphere. I love watching games at the Mosaic. I think the Mosaic is the nicest stadium in the CFL. I like BC Place. I'm not a fan of indoor stadiums, but you know, a dome with that crowd is pretty good. I just think the crowds out west are just better in general. Although I will say the Hamilton Tiger Cats last year, during their historic 18-1 record, they had a couple good playoff crowds there. But that's all you need to know. That tweet by the Edmonton Elks saying, "We're glad we broke off talks. We want nothing to do with them." And interestingly enough, you had an article come out yesterday how the Toronto Argonauts could be sold and come to the XFL. Now, so that gives you. Between those two things, you wonder how divided was the CFL during these talks? Because just the way I said, the people in Canada love the CFL way more than people on the East Coast. I think it's honestly safe to say that the people out west wanted the traditional CFL, while the people on the East Coast were willing to change, and that was going to be a problem. And listen, I don't want the Toronto Argonauts in the XFL. Alright, I realize they've been around for 148 years. Keep them in the CFL. Keep them in the Canadian Football League. Alright, I think the XFL should focus on American cities. And it's nothing more than we're just better off. But if there's one team that could work in the XFL, it would be the Toronto Argonauts. Because if any of you people have ever been to Canada, if you've never been to Canada and I just placed you in Toronto without knowing you in Canada, you would think it's an American city. Toronto is a very Americanized city. It is their version of New York City, but it's also a very Americanized city. If you go further up in the province of Ontario to Ottawa, the feeling of Ottawa is a lot different than it is Toronto. And then when you go to a city like Quebec City, Montreal, Edmonton, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, which I've been to, Winnipeg, those all feel like Canadian cities. Toronto is a very Americanized city. It's also the largest market. It's the reason why our only Canadian Major League Baseball team's in Toronto. It's the reason why our only NBA team in Canada is in Toronto. And it's the only place where the NFL experimented with a Buffalo Bill home game up in Toronto also. They have the market, they have the size, and they're very Americanized. So if it were to work, I think the XFL would only work in Toronto. That's just my opinion. But I think there was a division between the East Coast teams of the CFL and the West Coast teams of the CFL. And even though the bigger markets are on the East Coast, it's the West Coast teams that are doing well in attendance right now. And the East Coast teams have taken a steady decline in attendance over the last 10 years. Whereas the West teams seem to have maintained what they have and do a little bit better. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So that's it in a nutshell. It's another rant. The XFL got played big time. I think the CFL wanted the XFL to stay out another year so they have 2 full seasons, almost 2 full seasons, to regroup and decide what they're going to do, or make themselves stronger to say to tell the XFL, you want a part of us, you do things our way. And if that's the case, the XFL follows that suit, the XFL will die here in the United States. We're not doing Canadian rules. Listen, I love the Canadian Football League, but I like it for Canada. I love watching it. It's a different game. It's a good game. It's pretty entertaining. But down here, 3-down football and extended football field is not going to work for Americans. And for people that said, well, we had several teams in the in U.S. cities in the 90s, and only one made money, and that was the Baltimore Stallions. And once the Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore, interest for the Stallions dried up overnight, and they left. All right, the Las Vegas Posse did not do real good attendance-wise. Sacramento, in their 18,000-seat stadium, did pretty well attendance-wise, but they didn't make any money. All right, the TV deal is just not there in Canada to sustain a U.S. market. I'm sorry, it just isn't, even though ESPN was doing it. There's just not a big interest for CFL rules football in the United States. Someone prove me wrong. And there's a reason why the CFL can't even get a 10th team. I know they've been trying to get one in Nova Scotia now for a while, up in Halifax, and I hope they do. I mean, I think 10 teams, they should have 5 in each conference, 5 East, 5 West, whatever. But that's the end of this rant. I think the CFL came to the table with the hopes of making the XFL postpone for a year, and if that was the case, mission accomplished. Now, do I have any proof of this? I have absolutely zero proof. This is just my opinion. Seeing how that the CFL broke off Texas, we're playing in August. XFL, see you in 2023. And here comes the USFL. And don't think the CFL is not hoping the USFL weakens the XFL. Let me know what you think. God bless you all. Keep the faith. I will put this back in mothballs for now, since, we don't have football until 2023. Good job, Brock. Good job, Danny Garcia. And by the way, like I said, you guys owe us a press conference. You want to be the face of this league, come out and tell us what happened. Because right now, I'm not buying any of this thing right now. We'll talk to you later.